if you wanted to do, a time capsule, a moment or something like that, that illustrates the type of media environment that we're living in, people have no sense of what reality is anymore. And there are some things that are just reality. The reality is Donald Trump got convicted in a courtroom by 12 jurors. You can argue, I don't like the law. I don't like this is happening. You could even say Alvin Bragg only brought this because he has Democratic leanings and his constituency wanted this. But you can't, both sides had the ability to pick the jury. The thing that you cannot deny is that there aren't other cases happening. For example, look at this.
What about the evidence itself, Teresa? Do you think it was fair? Do you think the fact that they took these misdemeanors, these dead misdemeanors, and they electrified them back to life and then strapped them to 3 separate felonies without actually indicting him on those felonies?
Pause it for a second. That's just a spin on it. I just want to correct this because it's just too annoying. There was no dead misdemeanors.
They're deceased misdemeanors.
In New York State, there is a statute that says you cannot lie about on your business records. You cannot do it. It is a misdemeanor. There is also a statute on the books in New York State, and we should say, I think it was like 9,500 of these cases happened in the past, 4 or 5 years. There's also a statute in New York State that says you cannot do this in service of covering up a crime. Not even a crime that you committed, but a crime that is a felony. Now, we know lying about and getting illicit support for a campaign is criminal and was a criminal act in this instance because at least one guy who did it, the co-conspirator of Donald Trump,
went to jail.
Michael Cohen, went to jail.
Yeah.
Okay. So a crime was committed. You don't have to prove that Donald Trump committed the crime, just that he was aware of the crime and that this misdemeanor was done in service of covering up that felony. And therefore, the felony charge transfers onto the fraud.
Which is extremely common when dealing with falsifying business records charges. It's usually the secondary charge to an overarching crime, particularly in New York State.
Separate felonies without actually indicting him on those felonies?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is a fair trial. And if the whole double standard is what's getting me so mad, it's just they're pounding on him and they're beating him down and cutting him down. And I don't understand why Hunter Biden gets away with these things. Hillary Clinton, to me, it just gets me so angry and so excited to go vote for him in November.
Okay, you'll notice that was at 12:40 p.m. In Pacific time, so 3:40 p.m. Eastern time, and exactly at that moment, one of 12 jurors was being seated in the Hunter Biden felonious trial, and don't take my word for it. Take Fox News' word for it later that night, that the only reason why, or I should say later that afternoon, the only reason why Hunter Biden was on trial was because of his last name. Here is Trey Gowdy and his haircut. Explain
his new haircut. He's got the grease back.
It's a work in progress.
It's always a work in progress with him.
Your thoughts about the difference between Trump trying to get a fair trial in New York City and Biden's trying to get a fair trial in Delaware?
Well, Dana, I have this really bad habit, although I'm working on it. I try to be fair. I know there's a very small constituency for that. I think if it had been Donald Jones or Donald Trump or Donald Thomas, we would not have been in New York for the past several weeks. I think if this were Hunter Jones or Hunter Smith, you and I would be talking about something else this morning. So we got to get beyond treating people differently based on their political status or what their last name is. I did gun prosecutions for 6 years. I went after convicted felons. I went after people who were fugitives from justice. I went after lots of different people who are prohibited from possessing a firearm. But I'll bet you there weren't 10 cases prosecuted nationwide of addicts or unlawful drug users who possess firearms or lied on applications. I bet there weren't a dozen, which makes you wonder, of all the cases you could be pursuing in Delaware, why are you pursuing this one?
Okay, so all the other stuff was commentary. The irony is that the reason why Donald Jones or Donald Stevenson or Donald McIntyre wouldn't be brought up on this is because they didn't commit a crime in the process of running for office. I mean, were he not running for office, it's true, he would not have been prosecuted because that's where he committed the crime.
Right.
If he wasn't running for office and he wanted to just pay off Stormy Daniels and he had lied about it as a business expense, chances are he would have just gotten a misdemeanor. He probably would have gotten away with it. Nobody would have known. But it would have been just a misdemeanor. But because there was an underlying crime, because he was running for office, we expect a little more integrity, just a tiny bit, when you're running for office. Now, Hunter Biden, it is true, he was not involved in any type of official act or public trust act. And frankly, I don't feel that strongly about it one way or another, whether he gets tried for this or not. There are plenty of other miscarriages of justice to worry about. And he's not a public, he's not in a position to, let's say, run a government.
Right.
He sold us out to the Chinese.
And it's also odd that Trey Gowdy kind of got close to making an actually coherent and factual point before he just diverged from it. The fact that this is a very rare charge that's being brought against Hunter Biden. He said that, he hadn't seen, I bet there weren't 10 cases prosecuted nationwide of addicts or unlawful drug users who possess firearms or lied on applications. And then he said, it makes you wonder, why are you pursuing this one? Which is, I guess, meant to indicate, they're trying to get it to fail. But no, the question is, why are they pursuing this one? And for all their crying about the politicization of the Alvin Bragg trial, this is being brought by a Republican. This case is being brought by a Republican, right? The special counsel is a Republican that was appointed in this instance.
David Weiss was a Trump appointee in Delaware.
Exactly. And so if anyone wants to, if you want to say, okay, Alvin Bragg is working on behalf of Biden, whatever, you got to make the case that in this instance, it's odd that this is a very rare kind of prosecution to prosecute somebody for lying on a form. For saying that they were not using drugs when they actually were, when they got a weapon, versus I would say, probably larger and more consequential act of using hush money in the context of a presidential election in order to change or alter the outcome.
I think there's a better chance of Hunter Biden going to jail than Trump, and I'm not sure. I don't know on which is more egregious, but I do know that one involves someone who we're supposed to have public trust of. No one in the country is going to rely on Hunter Biden to do anything for the country. Yeah. That to me is the big difference. One is a public integrity case, and one is not. But there it is. I also have to concede that I barely could follow what Trey Gowdy was saying because I couldn't stop staring at his hairline.
The opposite of a widow's peak.
Strange.
He gave up on the faux hawk at least, and now we've got kind of like it's almost, do you remember the Bumpits from the mid-2000s? He stole it from Snooki. He's got like the Bumpit. Which,
I don't know those people, so it's shocking.
You should just shave it off, Trey.
Well, let me just explain it to you. It's a little thing you put in your hair, and it bumps it up, so you have a little bit more volume. It's like a little stool for the top of your hair. It's a poof. Yeah, it makes your hair look bigger.
It's big in like 2008.
It was big. It was big. It was big among the Italian American community in New Jersey, and Trey Gowdy is now taking
no awareness whatsoever. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.